But do you feel like social media is quite negative
Yes.
for the new generation coming
Yes.
through?
I didn't want to worry her because, excuse me,
But it was a huge thing for me, probably one of the biggest things in my life.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Tom.
And I'm Joe.
And this is Navigating Minds, a podcast brought to you by our friends down at Anxend. And it is an absolute honour to introduce our lovely guests today. It's Madison and Nicola.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on. I wanted to start this off by just talking a bit about you guys and your story. Who wants to start us off? Madison, do you want to start us off?
yeah,
Go on. Okay, well, I'm Madison. I'm 18 now, but during the process of the Anxend program, I was 17, and I started really struggling with anxiety, all the side effects of anxiety, and I've sort of not only gone on a journey that's come out of my anxiety, but also my comfort zone. So, yeah, much better now. Happy to be here.
Mum?
Anxend has just been amazing. I mean, her anxiety started probably when she was 11, but I didn't notice it till COVID and lockdown. But she's just like night and day. She's day now. She was night before. She's just a totally different person. Everybody notices it. She's just amazing. I mean, she never used to spend time with me. We never used to talk. She just used to be in the bedroom all the time. Now I don't see her because she's out and about all the time.
Which is not because I hate her.
No, no, we've got an amazing relationship, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just can't explain it. It's just been amazing. I just can't thank Anxend enough.
Awesome.
Yeah, I wish I'd known about it sooner. Sorry.
It's all right. I want to talk about your anxiety journey to start off.
Yeah.
Mum just said then it started when you were 11.
Yeah. It was 11 was when you had breast cancer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So around the time when I was 11 going into secondary school, my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then your dad was diagnosed with bowel.
That was the year before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
She was only young.
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't really understand it at the time, but it was a huge thing for me, probably one of the biggest things in my life. And because I was young, I just wanted you to be all right, really.
Yeah.
But-
when I told her, obviously, when I found out for definite it was cancer, when I told her, the first thing she said to me is, "Are you going to die?" And that from an 11-year-old was like,
hard.
Yeah.
but my words to her was, "We're all going to die. But hopefully I'm not going anytime soon." But yeah, carry on, babes.
Yeah. I mean, as an 11, I don't really remember that much, to be honest, but as an 11-year-old, it was very scary because I just didn't know. I just knew you were sick. But you did end up telling me that you would be all right because they had diagnosed you early. So that was just the thing that I focused on. And it ended up being a thing where I'm very into drawing as well as arts, and I would take a sketch pad and some pencils and a rubber to school, and I'd just run off and just sketch. And I ended up winning an award for it, actually, at the end, because they would be like, "Oh, doodle all the time," but it was just my escape, really.
Do you feel like you had any other type of escapes from that? Because obviously we talked briefly backstage. We have very similar stories for people who don't know. My mum having breast cancer as well around the exact same time. And my sort of cope was sport. It was just jump into sport, not even think about anything else. You kind of said that there. Did you have anything else which helped for you in sort of coping with this?
Well, drawing was a huge thing for me. I've always drawn, but I wasn't as much into performing arts at that time, but I have done a lot of sports in my life. I've done swimming, I've done football, gymnastics, acrobatics, and now I do dance. So I did actually end up tearing my ligament because I did too much. But football and gymnastics was my escape, really, just because I enjoyed it, and I'm not the best at calming my anger when I play sports, so it would take my mind off it too.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Yeah.
How was it from your point of view, Mum, as a parent, sort of going through that side of things, of going through breast cancer? Obviously incredibly tough. I've seen it with my mum as well.
Yeah.
How was it from your point of view?
I mean, from being told, I mean, I had a feeling anyway because I'd felt the lump. But I didn't want to worry her because, excuse me, previously I'd had like, I can't remember what it was called, but like a cyst that needed an operation on, and it was causing me a bit of pain. So she knew I was going to the hospital. She fought for this cyst, and I said, no, it's fine, everything's fine. And then they told me it is cancer, But I didn't want to say anything to her until I knew what stage it was. I didn't want to lie to her, basically, and say I'm going to be fine if I didn't know. So it was very difficult. But yeah, it was just, nobody wants to tell a child they've got cancer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't realise that she was struggling so much until, like I say, the lockdown of COVID. But I think it's because she'd gone through so many things. But with the cancer, I find the people looking in is more difficult for. Yeah. I know what I'm going through. I can feel it. They don't know what I'm going through because they're just seeing how ill I look. So I just used to hide in the bedroom. And maybe that affected her as well, because where's mum all the time? I don't know. Maybe she can tell you. I don't know.
I mean, again, I didn't really understand what was going on.
No, I just didn't want them to see how ill I was.
Yeah, it's a really tough one.
It didn't bother me, really. I just wanted you to be okay.
Yeah. Do you find that it has kind of affected you more now you're older, now you understand it more? Because that's what I found with my mum.
Maybe not right now, because she's, very okay, and we've built this amazing relationship. But when I went into secondary and I got older, I did understand it more, and I did have this kind of realization of like, oh, she went through that, and I had a point where it was like, that's awful, but she's okay. That's all that matters, really.
Her friend's mum's recently had it, so you've been there for her, haven't you? Because she knows she can understand what they're going through. So. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, Mum, you said you didn't realise how bad it was until it got to COVID. How did that manifest from your point of view? And I'll come to Madison afterwards and how that looked, what that looked like.
Madison's always been like happy-go-lucky girl, even though, like I said, backstage she was shy, and then she'll go on stage and she's like this totally different person. She's never been one to just be in a bedroom. She's always wanting to do things. So when COVID hit, the first lockdown, I moved into the care home that I was working in for 6 weeks. I asked them both, Madison and Ian, and they said it was fine. But she came to visit by the door once, and I didn't see her again for 6 weeks, and it was because she was struggling. So when I moved out, then I noticed it. She just wasn't herself. She was in the bedroom all the time. She wasn't, but personal hygiene was not a thing for her. It was just, from when I moved in to when I moved out, totally different. Okay. And I know it's been hard for all children going through lockdown. Yeah. But I think it's been like one thing after another for Madison, and that was the icing on the cake. So that's when I first realised. And then it's just escalated from there, hasn't it? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Did you learn anything from lockdown about yourself? We've talked about this so many times, Joe and I, like whether we actually took something from it. What do you both reckon? Maybe
negative stuff. I learned that being alone was probably the worst thing possible for me, because I couldn't see. I've had a best friend since I was 1 year old. She lives literally down the street, and we're always together.
4 years old.
Oh, okay, 4 years old.
Close.
Feels like
Close
1 year
enough.
old. Okay, we've been together basically since we were in the womb. She lives down the street, and we would see each other constantly, and I love her to bits. And lockdown was probably the worst thing for me, because she was like the person I could talk to most, but she couldn't physically be there. And I couldn't have my other friends either. And once I got back into secondary school, I realised this is, as much as I hate it, this is sort of, I can't be alone, because being alone is probably the worst thing for me. The first couple of months I was like, yes, no school. And then it just went, no, not it at all. And I mean, social media during lockdown, although there was a lot of stuff going on, like TikTok was very new. Yeah. There was a lot of toxicity with how people looked and stuff during lockdown, and everyone was trying to, had this mindset of improving themselves before they went back to, proper lives, not having to not see people. So I kind of got into that, and that kind of pulled me down and started it, really. So.
Do you feel like social media is... This is obviously a very tough question, but do you feel like social media is quite negative for the new generation coming through?
I have always said this, when I'm grown and I'm married and I have kids, I don't care how much they ask. They're not having iPads, iPhones, anything until they're a good age, because I don't want them to have that sort of, expectations of beauty and body image, because it's so toxic and it's so disgusting the way you see people on social media bring themselves down, but it's like, you're all beautiful. You don't need to do it. And I could go on about this for ages, but I won't. I just think, as much as I love being able to text my friends and stuff, a lot of social media is so toxic in terms of, you know, those sort of beauty standards and health standards, and I try my best to stay clear of all of that, because I just think it's
For the Anxend, that's where she was.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
Yeah, she was listening to all that. She thought she was ugly. She thought she was fat. It was just, are you joking?
And I still struggle with that.
Yeah, she does
This day.
still struggle with that. But
So what's your relationship with social media now? Do you on social media?
Yeah, I'm on social media. I'm on a lot of social media, all the basics really, not Twitter. Twitter has gone very downhill recently. I just think as long as you stay in the feed of everything that's good for you, you should be fine. But once you start seeing any sort of feed that's negative, you like one video and everything will start coming in and it'll just latch onto your brain. So I stay clear as best as possible, and I've got 2 accounts for that as well. So if my main account, I've got 2. If my main account has all this negative stuff coming through, I'll switch accounts.
So you can feel yourself getting worse and then you come away from it, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a second account sort of dedicated to, you know, watching people with fashion and makeup and stuff like that. And often I'll just stay on that because I know it's all positive stuff.
Right.
So
That's interesting.
I just don't want to fall back into that again.
Okay.
Nobody does. Nobody should.
I want to pick your brain on social media as well, and how you impact, because obviously you're from an era where social media it's very new, and obviously you're bringing up kids in an era where social media is the norm. So what was your thoughts on raising a daughter who is just social media is everything, and to have such an impact on her life, and yet she's able to manage it in this way now she's 18?
well, we were always like a bit worried about this. We'd have like you know what they called where you set limits and stuff like that, and
Like
age
screen
limit.
time.
But she'd come to me and say she's talking to some lad. I'm like, how do you know he's only that age? How do you know? There was always, but the trust in that I have in her, and the fact that she can come to me with anything, it was fine, because she would literally go, this is him, this is everything about him. So I never had that worry with her really. But when she's saying to me she needs to buy this and that and this and that because she's ugly and she's fat, I'm like, no, but you just can't tell her. You just can't. It's in her head. It's what she thinks. But
I feel like a lot of people also think that, on a side note, in like the business standpoint, like if you're not making, you know, £100,000 a year, you're a loser, or like it's like I know so many people our age who are like, I'm not doing 100,000 a year, and I'm like, yeah,
You're
not
still
many
young.
people are, mate. You're fine.
Yeah.
Like, relax. And it's just, social media can be an amazing thing, as we found, like using our platform, like connecting with incredible people, like helping people, but it can also be one of the most dangerous places. And what I found with my struggles when I was going through stuff for 17, 18 in particular, was I was engulfed in social media, being like, basically what you brought on your point of view, being like, oh no, I'm not like this, like this is crazy. And I was a very confident 17, 18-year-old, and it can just tear through anybody, and it is so scary when you get into like a bad algorithm of something as well, and it's just on repeat, and you're just seeing it, and you're like, oh, this is normal, this is not, everyone's thinking this, and it's just like, no, they're not. No one is. Everyone's
terrible.
as confused
I wouldn't
as
wish
you.
it on my worst enemy. But
Yeah.
I just think if you are on that side of TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever, especially Twitter, just get off. Because there's no point. You'll just go down a hole and it's not going to be good for you.
You're incredibly self-aware for an 18-year-old. What advice would you give to your friends who more than likely aren't or are struggling at this age? You seem to have got the grips of it really early on, which is so impressive.
I feel like because of the things I have been through, it's sort of sped up my maturity.
Yeah.
So it's a thing of, you know, I've had to put on this face that I'm okay, and I've had to be mature, and I've had to handle it well. I've always thought that I'm actually the friend that most people do go to for advice.
Yeah.
So they've heard it all already, but I just think, you know, there's a lot of instances where I've given my friends advice and they've told me stuff and they've said this and that, and then they've gone back on their word, and I'm like, well, you've told me that you didn't want to do that. I just think stepping back in a situation or if you're in a bad mindset and thinking where you are right now, what you're actually feeling, like set aside from the rational thoughts, the impulsive thoughts, what you're really thinking, and that should be what you trust. Always trust your head and your gut, not anything else, because I think, impulsive emotional thoughts is what's going to get you in bad situations. So
amazing.
Well said.
I wanted to come on to the Anxend program.
Yeah.
Obviously, we spoke about Madison's anxiety. Well, I was just curious, what did you try before that?
Oh, so many GP appointments. All of them, 13, 14 years old, will just give her antidepressants. No.
yeah,
Is that beta blockers? Right.
No antidepressants.
Yeah.
Just up I don't know whatever
fully
they were, but
antidepressants. Yeah,
I refused. My husband refused. We asked for mental health referral. That was a 3-year waiting list, but they said they'd try and push it. Every time we went back, nothing was happening. I paid for a private psychiatrist. That was going well for about 2 maybe 3 sessions.
but no, it wasn't.
Okay, so 3rd session, Madison was a bit late. She was told off in the session.
Really?
Straight
Yeah.
away for me, that's a big no.
I yawned in the session because I was struggling with sleep, and she was not happy, and I was like, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
she
was like,
told her off.
Yeah.
She told her she had a eating disorder, and I was like, no. And I'd heard somebody in work mentioning Anxend, and I thought, let's have a look. So I had a look at the website, and I thought, it is a bit expensive, but let's have that initial consultation. So Maurice did a Teams message with me. Madison joined in. She told Maurice things I didn't even know about self-harm and things like that. And I was just in shock. And he told me things about the, what's it called again?
Frontal cortex.
I always forget
cortex.
frontal cortex. And I was just amazed. And I thought, do you know what? Money shouldn't be an issue when it comes to your children. But in this day and age, money is an issue. But I just said, let's talk about it. He thankfully came up with a payment plan because I couldn't afford that one-off payment. And I just wish I'd done it sooner. I really do. She spoke earlier about being alone, in the bedroom. And I used to go to work when she was on school holidays or college holidays. I feared for her when I was in work. I was like, please get a job, please get a job. I didn't know what I was coming home to, whether she was going to hurt herself, what mood was going to be in the house when we got home. There was constant tension in the home. I don't get that anymore. I don't.
That's amazing.
I can't wait to come home. I can't wait to come home and see her. I can't wait to come. Well, I don't know.
Force me to watch Force me to watch TV.
But yeah, we spend so much time with each other now, don't we? Yeah. Well, when
amazing.
she's not out and about with the mates.
No, that's great.
But we used to go shopping to Liverpool, just the two of us, pre-Anxend. And you'd think she'd be fine with her mum. But we'd be at the tills and she'd just start crying. I'm like, what's the matter? I need to go to the car. I need to go to the car now. She was having a literal panic attack. And it was just because there was people there. She just couldn't cope with it.
Quite
now
overstimulated.
Now she
Yeah.
goes on her own.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Gee,
Yeah.
that's so
It's
interesting.
amazing. I wanted to take you back pre-Anxend. What was the final straw for you, Mum, before you took her into that and got her through those? Because it's very relatable for Tom and I think, for me especially. My mum was the one who dragged me to therapy. She was like, you need to go, I can't. And very relatable to Madison's story is I spent all my time in my room. I couldn't leave my room. I didn't want to leave at all, any point. And if I did, I'd feel really overwhelmed, just like Madison did. So for me, what was the final straw for you when you said, enough's enough, we need to get this sorted now?
Well, I didn't have to drag her to therapy. She knew she needed it.
Okay.
But she knew it wasn't helping what was happening. So I just thought, I'm going to have to try something else. And whereas I was paying, I don't know, what was it, £40, £60 a session for that person, that was no good. Maurice had this lump sum. And it was like, I can't physically afford that at the moment. And then we talked about payment plans. But I knew, even if I couldn't have that payment plan, I knew I had to find that money somewhere because I had to do something.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to work day in, day out like that anymore. It was causing me anxiety. I just couldn't concentrate in work. And everybody in work knew about it, but they didn't know how to help me. I was just on constant edge, working for a telecommunications company. You're not allowed your phone, ironically. So I didn't know if she needed me or not. So it was just I just hated going to work.
In the back
I
of your
started
head.
to feel like I just wanted to stay at home all the time. I was the one getting depressed and anxiety because of her. But that's why we did it, and
Yeah, and let me clarify, I was in college last year before I started, but I was going through a lot at the time, especially the year before, and it came to a point where I was just never there, because I didn't have the energy, I didn't have the
she was
health.
missing a lot of days in college
Yeah.
as well.
Hi guys, Joe here. Hope you enjoy part 1. Don't forget quickly to like and subscribe our stuff. Really helps the page massively. Here's what you can expect to find in part 2.
You know, when something happens and it surprises you, that's your fight or flight. But it literally just felt like I was going to rant to my best friend. The process of actually studying for my GCSEs was really difficult.